So I know you want to get to the main event, which is our candidates this evening. And I want you to know, before they come out, we have had a drawing to ensure that they're answering questions in a random order. We'll keep it moving, who gets the first, who gets the last word each time. But I'm looking forward to a very informative session on a set of incredibly important issues that all the speakers have talked about. So no further ado, let's bring out our candidates. Don Berwick, Evan Falchuk, Attorney General Martha Coakley, Treasurer Steve Grossman, and Jeff McCormick. They will come out. Let's give them a round of applause. Great. So our first question for the candidates, which we're just going to get right into questions, but this really lends itself to what I think everybody would expect by way of opening remarks from the candidates. And this is to ask each of these five to speak about the top 3 things that they would change as governor to grow a skilled, educated workforce in the state, and how they would go about making these changes. And by order of slips of paper drawn out of a basket, they were all there. They can vouch it was all on the level. Let's start with Don Berwick.
Thanks a lot. Let me thank the sponsors and SkillWorks. It's a thrill to be here. There hardly could be a topic more important to the future of our Commonwealth than this. It's where equity and justice really meets the economy and the role of government. It's a thrilling area to get into. If I have to pick 3, I think one would be closer partnerships. No one agent, not government, not schools, not industry alone, can create the skilled workforce that we need for the future. We have to move in tandem. You see the effects of public-private partnership when they work well. The wonderful one-stop career centers that are at work here now there were 33 centers, and they've allowed 236,000 workers to find jobs in 25,000 businesses. That comes from working together. Second, we need to attend to education. It's absolutely key. I think a fulcrum issue is the community colleges. We need flexible programming, stackable credits, and a revision of our approach to community colleges, which are, after all, the way that an aging workforce actually finds help, as well as young people. The average age at community colleges in the Commonwealth is 29 years. And so I can't think of an investment better than community colleges as a way to accelerate access to the skilled workforce we need for the future. That includes adult basic education in English for speakers of other languages. These programs are crucial. We're way behind on this. There are 20,000 people on waiting lists to get English skills. And this is important for an innovation economy and a growth economy. 61% of new businesses in this Commonwealth have been started by immigrants, and investing in the ability to get people into the mainstream of our society through better preparation and education and English proficiency and skills is important. Last, I think, is the innovation economy itself around skill building. The Workforce Competitiveness Trust Fund I rank as a major success. It's a rip-roaring success. I'm going to propose that we take 1/4 of 1% of the corporate tax revenue of the Commonwealth. That's all it would take to give the Workforce Competitiveness Trust Fund secure and future funding. $5 million to spend there has produced $21 million already of grants and investments. Why wouldn't we double down on that? There's more to say, but my time is up, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you for that. Evan Falchuk.
Thank you. And I know we can use part of the time to just introduce ourselves. And I'm Evan Falchuk. I'm a founder of the United Independent Party. I grew up here in Massachusetts. I'm 44. My wife Felicia and I have 3 kids who are in the public schools near our home. I'm a business person. For the last 13 years, I was on the senior executive team, most recently president of a global healthcare business called Best Doctors. During my time there, we grew from 9 employees to up over 600 employees. And I'm running for governor because I'm a voter who has become tired of a political establishment that I don't think takes voters and their concerns as seriously as it should. And I believe that we face serious challenges in our democracy. In the most recent statewide election for Senate last year, only 27% of registered voters voted. Fully 60% of representatives in our legislature in this term are running unopposed. And it's the reason why we don't see funding and accountability on the issues that are so important to voters actually being dealt with. So I founded a new party, not just so that, and it doesn't make what I'm doing any easier, so that I could run for governor, but so that in the 2016 election we could see the possibility of filling our legislature with people who truly understand these issues and want to take action on them. So we have to address the cost of living in Massachusetts in order to make sure that jobs are created. We have to make sure that funding is there for worker training, for skills, and that the dollars that need to be allocated for workforce training in the many different ways that we're going to talk about today are actually funded in that way. There's hundreds of millions of dollars that go out in tax breaks to large corporations in Massachusetts, public companies that probably don't need the money as badly as programs like the ones that you support do. I'd like to see that money reallocated in that way so we can make sure that the promise of equality and opportunity for everybody in our Commonwealth is realized. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha Coakley.
So good evening, everybody. Thank you, Peter. And my name is Martha Coakley. I'm your Attorney General. And I ran at a time when Governor Patrick ran for governor, thinking that we could have and promote a healthy economy. Unfortunately, Wall Street had other ideas. They took our money, they gambled with it, they lost it. And we are still digging out from that economy. And one of the things I feel very strongly about is that we can and will in Massachusetts rebuild this economy on our own terms, not just for people at the top and not just for Boston and Cambridge, but we need to rebuild it for everybody so that there's an equality, opportunity, fair shot at getting the education and getting the job training and the jobs that people want. And that means getting and keeping businesses here. So we can do that here in Massachusetts. I believe that when we do that, we build an economy that is sustainable, that lets us grow our infrastructure, lets us keep businesses here and grow with good housing, and ways in which we invest in our schools. And we're going to talk a lot about workforce, but let's remember, workforce is nothing more than the people in this state and the people who come to this state. And I think that's really important. So what we've learned, and I want to tell you three quick stories. First, I've talked to companies that said, we're going to move south because energy costs are lower. And they said, we moved back up here because we needed people with a good 8th grade education. Massachusetts invests in its schools, and what we've learned from our charter schools and our pilot schools and our innovation schools is that pre-K and longer school days that teach kids not just how to learn for a test, but how to learn and continue lifelong learning is a good investment. We can do that here in Massachusetts, and we will. Second, I talked to the head of a technology company. I thought she'd say we need more people with STEM background. She said, no, I need people who can write. And so even though we don't talk as much about reading, writing, and arithmetic, we still have to do our basics. And finally, we need a STEM, science, technology, engineering, and arts, and music, and math to make sure that our kids, all of our kids, are prepared then to do those 2-year and 4-year college, work with aligning those educations and make sure we invest in our kids and our future and our workforce. Thank you.
Excellent. Everybody gets to answer the question however you want. The ostensible question is top 3 things you'd do as governor to grow a skilled, educated workforce in the state and how you'd go about doing it. Steve Grossman.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you all for being here. The ideas that I hope to share with you tonight are ideas that I gained from my 35 years running a 4th-generation family business, Grossman Marketing Group, which we grew 8 times during the years in which I led it. My years of service on the board of the Crittenden Women's Union, which has, I think, some of the finest programs in workforce training we have in the Commonwealth, and the work that I've done with a friend of mine named Susan Shiro, who runs a small nonprofit, but a very successful one in workforce training called Career Collaborative. So let me cite 4 if I have the time. I'll cite 3 and 4 if I have the moment. Number 1, I'd like to create 5,000 paid internships for college students in Massachusetts, 50% paid for by the state, 50% paid for by the business community. I'm going to challenge the business community to step up to the plate and do more than they've done to this point. $25 million, half paid for by the state, half paid for by the business community, $5,000 for a summer, $500 a week. I'm sick and tired of hearing from young people who get unpaid internships. This is a time to do paid internships for 5,000 young people and keep them here in Massachusetts long term. Second, I'd like to freeze fees and tuitions at all of our public colleges and universities over the next 4 years. We've done some of that under the leadership of Bob Corrett in the legislature, Bob Corrett, the president of UMass, but we haven't done enough of it. Students are drowning in debt. Their parents are drowning in debt. I stand with Elizabeth Warren in believing that we should be reducing interest rates on student loans in any case, but let's freeze fees and tuitions. And finally, internships and co-ops. One of the finest vocational technical schools in the state that I'm familiar with, Charlie Lyons runs Shawsheen Voc Tech up in Berwick. 70% of the students in their senior year have a co-op program. 60% of high school students in Germany have co-op programs. We don't do enough of that. We need a lot more co-ops and internships. So they're ready to go to work. And finally, in the 3 seconds I have left, let's break down the silos. Let's create a partnership between educational institutions and the work and the companies that are in this Commonwealth. I met a man in Attleboro the other day. Man in the Attleboro said, his name is Dave Stiles. I said, Dave, you've run a company for 21 years. I said, how many times has an educational institution ever come to see you in the 21 years that you've run the company? None. Voc Tech schools, community colleges, working with business to create that partnership. That's how you create the bridge to the future.
Great. Time. Jeff McCormick.
Hi, Jeff McCormick. I live a couple miles from here with my wife, Christine, and 3 children, 10, 11, and 12. I've built companies for 27 years in education, energy, healthcare, biotech, software. I've created thousands of jobs with the management teams, and I know what it's like to build businesses. The Jeff for Jobs campaign is what my campaign is all about. It's getting people into the workforce. The 3 things that I would do: first, you have to analyze the needs of business. It is very, very common that schools educate for where they think the world is and not to where the world is going. In the words of the great Wayne Gretzky, skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where the puck is. That's something we have to do, so that collaboration is extremely important. We have to remember that in education, we have to not just cram a bunch of facts into students, but it's about teaching problem solving, critical thinking, adaptability, creativity, which is why the A in STEM, making it STEAM, is so important, the creative side. That is where the value is created. Trust me, we've done it time and time again with companies. And the last thing I would do is we have to think of it as an entire continuum of education. We have to invest in early childhood education. Freedom House is here tonight. They're working with high school students. They are getting ready for college. So they're preparing in the right direction. We have to have strong vocational and technical schools. That has to always be off-ramps to good jobs. We have to invest heavily in our community colleges and our state colleges and universities. Why? Because so many of those students are going to stay here, and they are our future. Thank you.
We have about 60 seconds for each of the candidates to react, rebut, clarify, amplify. Let's start with Don Berwick.
I want to reflect on my own experience as an executive. I started and ran a nonprofit organization, the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, for 20 years. It grew from nothing to a worldwide scale. When I read in the MBAE report, for example, the lack of fit between the workforce needs, according to 2/3 of businesses, they can't find students skilled to be fill the jobs that are there. We have 200,000 people looking for jobs, about 100,000 jobs looking for people. I reflect on our experience. We had a relationship with the Northeastern Co-op program, and it was a thrilling win-win. In my office as CEO, I always had 5 people sit. I never sat alone, and several of them were co-op students. These young people would come into our organization. They learn about us. We learn about them. And over the 15 years that program has existed, I think now about 25 or 30, perhaps more % of the employees of that organization are former Northeastern co-ops. Partnership between business and schools with the assistance and investment of government is a real winner, and I know that from my personal experience.
Evan Falchuk.
The cost of living in Massachusetts is too high because of our high healthcare costs, which is driven by the monopolistic consolidation of hospitals into giant systems, and because we don't construct homes, starter homes for people to live in any real numbers. And it's because of a combination that's interesting between the way that the state funds cities and towns for education and the way in which cities and towns allow for people to build homes. We've laid out a very detailed plan, you can find it on the Falchuk2014.org website, to help build thriving communities by helping kickstart the production of housing. This is important because lowering the cost of living means people have got more money in their pockets, and that's what leads to the creation of more jobs. It helps reduce the amount of inequality in our society. We have to be especially mindful of the reality that these issues of inequality and lack of opportunity are particularly falling upon communities of color and immigrants. And the extent to which we do not acknowledge that reality and talk about these issues in general terms and not in the practical ways that our state prioritizes its spending, we will not be able to achieve the results that we must achieve.
Martha Coakley.
Let me pick up on something Jeff said about skating to where the puck is, because we know in Massachusetts those jobs of the future are going to involve STEAM, and I hope STEM with arts also included in that. And I think we heard in the introduction that we don't even know what some of those jobs are going to be in the future. But what we need to do is get online and on board with making sure our kids do have those skills, like computer science. In 2012, fewer than 600 kids in Massachusetts took advanced placement in computer science in our high schools. It's not good enough. You know, on the other hand, we have a place like Malden High School. We have 70 languages spoken at that high school. First-generation students taking computer science, excited about working in teams and working with their teacher, Paul Marks. And I visited the class. They tried to teach me coding. They had some success, but I'm an old dog. And they said to me, though, Mr. Marks teaches us how to walk, and we learn how to fly. And being able to get our kids engaged in learning and exciting about the skills and learning those skills down the road, I think will get us to skate ahead of where that puck is. We have to do that. That's our competitive advantage here in Massachusetts.
Treasurer Grossman.
So this is not a theoretical exercise. This is real life. And I think it's fair when you're choosing your next governor to say, what have you done in the job you have now that would recommend you to us as somebody who really gets it in terms of diversity hiring? So let me share with you that when I was sworn in as Treasurer of the Commonwealth on January 19th of 2011, I said two things. I said, first, we're going to hire the best person for every job. We have roughly 700 people who work in the departments that I oversee. And second, we're going to make sure that hiring reflects the diversity of the society in which we live. It's not enough to come up with all kinds of programs to create educated people unless you hire them. I oversee 700 people. 35% of the people we've hired in the past 4 years have been from diverse backgrounds: African American, Latino, Asian, Native American. We've done that, and it's the right thing to have done. Governor oversees a government with 85,000 workers. Think about all the people we could hire, well-trained, well-educated people. That's putting people to work. That's giving people hope. That's leaving no one behind. That's what one Commonwealth, to me, is all about.
Jeff McCormick.
Well, we heard from President Robertson earlier that you are hearing from one of the next governors. I don't know that everyone in the Commonwealth would agree with that, but I like your thought on that one. So thank you.
Everybody was invited.
Okay. We need to remember we have to attack the root of the problem as well. And when I found out that the #1 reason why young men of color drop out of high school is struggling with math, we wanted to do something about it. And today, we have a math software company that teaches millions of kids in 41 different states basic math skills, which are essential to graduate from high school and for a third of the jobs that are ultimately out there in the world. That's the kind of bold thinking I think we need from our next governor. Someone who will go after the immediate solutions to immediate problems, but someone who will also get to the root of the matter.